Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly look at Belotti and see how he played a key role in Torino's come-from-behind win over Milan. But before we do that, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. But now, let's briefly look at the starting lineups. We look at Torino, more of a 3-4-1-2 with Belotti and Zaza ahead of Verdi, out in the wingback roles, Di Silvestri and Aina with Rincon and Baselli in midfield. Then we go to Milan. They did look like a 4-3-3 with Rafael Leao and Suso on the flanks and Piatek up front, and in midfield we went with Kessié, Benacer and Çalhanoğlu. So now let's see how Torino were able to come from behind in the second half to down Milan. So when we break down Torino against Milan, it was a game that was starved of legitimate goal-scoring opportunities in the opening half. Why was that? Well, when we look at the board, we look at the shapes and see how both sides look to press, and it was very impressive to see how they're able to keep to their duties and ensure that the other side never really were able to get in behind the defense from open play. First, we look at Milan. They did look like a 4-3-3 because they had Suso stepping to Bremer to press him. Piatek and Rafael Leao did get to Izzo and get to Lianco, so they pressed them out of the game. And then you have the wingbacks against the fullbacks outside, and then in midfield, you have a midfield battle that is intact. You have Çalhanoğlu and you have Kessié, who can step to Rincon and step to Baselli, and then you have Benacer tracking the movement of Verdi with the two center forwards up front, ensuring that they have to step out there and try to get the better of Romagnoli and Musacchio. So that's how Milan tried to go about it going forward. They constantly press from the front. Torino were never given the opportunity to build plays out of the back, but the same thing can be said for Torino, who did press from the front as well. Whenever you had Donnarumma on the ball and you had the center back split, you would have Zaza and Belotti step forward. Benacer would try to drop into that space, and you'd have Verdi step to him, and the same battle would ensue in midfield. However, Milan did have sort of advantages out in the wider roles. One was the fact that Di Silvestri often did step to Theo Hernandez to press him, but the problem was that going forward, when you tried to get at Theo Hernandez, Hernandez did a good job of negating that threat from left back, and there was never a real opportunity that he got to create a chance, and that was Torino's best way to goal because it was an open pathway down the right flank. On the opposite flank, what happened there was that Calabria was often given time on the ball because Ola Aina did take too long to press out to him, whereas Di Silvestri was tight on Theo Hernandez whenever he got on the ball, so that was a big problem, and that did lead up to the build-up to the goal that Milan were able to score from the spot. When we look at that, you have Musacchio slide the ball out to Calabria, and because Ola Aina takes a very long time to get to his marker, what happens here is that the ball is played out around him into the path of Suso, who does take on Bremer. Suso takes on Bremer, and we see Piatek making the overlapping run, and Suso slides it out to him, and he hits it first time. And what we end up seeing there is that Rafael Leao makes a run in between Izzo and in between Di Silvestri, and he is pulled down in the box, and that is how Piatek was able to score his goal there. Besides that, and when you look at the way that Milan pressed, the only time where you would see some sort of variation is when Suso would get caught high, and if they did push the center back forward, or you had Calabria, who was occupied by a center forward, you would have Kessié shift out to that right back, to that zone in the right channel to ensure that markers were closed down. But besides that, Leao did a very good job ensuring that Izzo didn't get forward. Theo Hernandez was able to cope with the threat of Di Silvestri pushing forward. And when you really break it down, a lot of Milan's chances came from them either beating their man 1v1 or just defensive mistakes from Torino, because we've already in previous videos that I have broken down Milan, we can highlight the fact that they do struggle to get in behind the defense because they lack a player that's able to find that pass in between the lines, to find that final pass, to get in behind the defense. They lack that variation in the final third, and often their star players, specifically Piatek and Rafael Leao now, are starved of service. So when we look to some of the chances they do create, one stems from Theo Hernandez just beating Di Silvestri and pushing forward. And when he pushes forward on the outside, we do see Çalhanoğlu make the run in between the center backs, and Piatek make a similar run in between Bremer and Lianco. And what happens there is that Theo Hernandez is able to slide the ball across Di Silvestri for Leao, who now is able to run at Izzo. When he runs at Izzo, that run is continued on the outside, and the ball is poked into Theo Hernandez, who gets there before Di Silvestri, but his cross floats through the box, and Ola Aina is able to clear it away from danger half-heartedly, and it eventually sees Kessié fire a shot inches wide of the net. When we look to another opportunity where we're able to see this happen, this time it's Calabria stepping to Ola Aina to dispossess him, and we have Piatek breaking forward against the back three, and he slides the ball out to Suso, who is making the run towards Bremer. He cuts outside, but his cross deflects off Baselli, looking to offer some sort of aid to the back line, and it falls to Leao, who nods an effort on goal that is pushed over the net. Besides that, all we could really highlight is the fact that Milan were trying to get Leao into space in behind Di Silvestri, and we saw it one more time when we had Calabria again not closed down because Ola Aina's not stepping to him, clipping the ball into that space beyond Di Silvestri for Leao, breaking into the path of Izzo. But what happens there is that Baselli tracked it well, and they had a 2v1 in that zone, and they were able to ensure that Leao couldn't break forward towards goal. On the flip side, when you look at Torino, they also struggled to create chances because of Milan's pressing, and they only had their first shot attempt in stoppage time prior to that first half. And how did that stem? Because they couldn't play through the midfield, Verdi wasn't able to get onto the ball and influence, and Zaza and Belotti didn't vary their movement enough in that first half to really bring their teammates towards them. It stemmed from a long ball from the back, and what we see here, it's a Milan mistake when you really break it down, and you have Belotti darting in between the space of Calabria and Musacchio, and you have Donnarumma coming out. The defenders and the goalkeeper make a meal of it, but you have Belotti clip the ball over the open net, and that was a great opportunity for them to level the game going into halftime. But when we focus on Belotti, he was the key man in the second half. When you compare him to Piatek, where Piatek was often getting the ball and he wasn't being able to link play, it was bouncing off him, he was being pushed out of the game by Lianco and Izzo, Belotti offered something different. However, when we move to the second half, besides the fact that Belotti realized that he can win his individual battle with Musacchio, they were being able to get more onto the ball and create better chances because Milan's pressing did decrease, and we saw that in the initial stage when you had Verdi ahead of the midfield three, sliding the ball out to Ola Aina, and he was able to drive at Calabria, and Suso recovering, cut in, and fire a shot on goal that Donnarumma pushed away. Shortly after that, we see Sirigu roll the ball out to Baselli. No one steps to him, and he's able to split Benacer and Kessié for Belotti, dragging Musacchio out, and he was able to turn him and then run at Benacer and Calabria before splitting Calabria and Kessie coming across for Ola Aina. But with Belotti making the run into the box with Musacchio, Ola Aina's cross does evade them, and it falls to Romagnoli, who's able to clear his lines. Then we see some changes. Walter Mazzarri does move to a 4-4-2, bringing on Ansaldi and taking out Lianco, and Ansaldi moves to the left-hand side, and shortly after that, we also see Berenguer come on for Verdi, and then that sees Ansaldi move to the right. Besides that, Milan did move to a 4-5-1, bringing on Bonaventura, shifting him out to a narrow left-sided role, and then Suso moved out to the right-hand side. And the only thing that this affected was the fact that Kessié sometimes did have to shift out to Ola Aina because Suso, like I said, wasn't dropping back to close down his marker, and that was a threat that was building in the early stages of the second half. And when you look at how Torino were lined up now, they were looking to get more crosses into the box, they were stretching the play, and now it allowed Zaza and Belotti to possibly get some service inside of the box. But shortly after that, we see more of what they're trying to do, and it's Bremer stepping forward, and he splits Benacer and Kessié once again for Belotti, who turns Musacchio, and then Kessié takes him out. So you're seeing how Belotti is able to shift the game. He's bringing his team in. He's ensuring that they win free kicks around the box. But then what happens now is that he ends up taking the game over in that final 20 minutes. And how does he do that? When we look to the first goal, it's Rincon tracking Çalhanoğlu and dispossessing him around Torino's box. And we have Bremer slide the ball out to Baselli. When Baselli has the ball, Kessié steps to him, and that allows Berenguer to check in and drag out Calabria. And when he drags out Calabria, he drops the ball back to Rincon, who clips the ball into the space behind Calabria, where we see Belotti spin off Musacchio to get onto it. Now we have a 1v1 battle headed towards the box, and we have Belotti cut in on Musacchio and fire a shot to the front post that Donnarumma is unable to save and should save. Now we have Torino equalized, and shortly after that, Belotti doubles his goal tally. And how does he do that? Well, it's Baselli from deep, close by Piatek, and he slides the ball out to Ansaldi, who is close by Bonaventura and Theo Hernandez. He's able to drop off a bit deeper and evade their press and switch the ball out to Olaena, who now has space ahead of him. Aina locates Belotti stepping into space in between Calabria and in between Musacchio, and he's able to play it into Belotti between the lines because Berenguer is holding the width on the left touchline, and Calabria has to step to him. So what happens there is that once he gets the ball, he locates Zaza, making the run between the center backs to drag out Romagnoli, and he plays a reverse ball beyond Musacchio. Zaza gets onto the ball and lashes an effort towards goal, and Donnarumma does do well to save it, but what we do see here is that Belotti continues his run with Benacer tracking late, and although he mishits his first rebound attempt, he overhead kicks the second one past the keeper, and just like that, a system change stretches Milan out of position. Belotti's able to drop off into space and exploit Musacchio in 1v1 battles, and that is how they were able to get ahead and eventually win the game. Milan made another change, bringing on Rebic, moving to a 4-4-2, having Bonaventura play a narrow left role like we expected, and then we also saw Gigi come on for Olaena. There's one specific example that does highlight the difference between Piatek and Belotti in this game, and that's when Bonaventura from 5 yards outside the edge of the box pokes the ball into Piatek, and it bounces off of his foot, and you have Bremer poke it directly into the path of Belotti, who's able to hold off Musacchio, spin him, and then get fouled. The difference between having a center forward who can offer you that hold-up play, bring defenders to him, bring the midfield to him, and win fouls to ensure that his team pushes up the pitch was decisive here, and that's what Belotti offered. And yes, Milan did have 2 late chances that did stem from defensive lapses through Kessié and Piatek that they should have scored, but here they allowed Belotti to make the difference and he punished them. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about Torino? Can they finish in the top half of Serie A this season? And what about Milan? Still slumping, switching systems, but they're not getting it done. And now we either have to ask questions to the players or the manager. Who is it? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.